The teacup shattered against the marble floor 3 inches from Beatrice's worn shoes. Hot liquid splashed across her already stained dress. She did not flinch. She had learned not to flinch years ago. "Look at me when I speak to you," her stepmother hissed. Lady Margaret Hartwell stood above her like a hawk, eyeing wounded prey. "You spilled tea on Lady Pemberton's sleeve yesterday. Do you know what that cost me? The humiliation." Beatrice lifted her eyes. They were grey like storm clouds, though no one had bothered to notice in years. "I apologized to Lady Pemberton. She said it was nothing." "Nothing?" Margaret's laugh was sharp as glass. "She pitied you. That is worse than anger. She looked at you with those sad eyes and saw exactly what you are. A burden. A mistake. A girl too plain and too poor to ever find a husband." The words were familiar. Beatrice had heard them every day for 10 years, since her father died and left her to Margaret's mercy. She gathered the broken pieces of china with steady hands. A sharp edge cut her thumb. Blood welled up, bright and red. "Leave it," Margaret snapped. "The servants will clean your mess. They always do. Just like I have cleaned up the mess your father left me. Feeding you, clothing you, keeping a roof over your ungrateful head." Beatrice stood. She was 26 years old, too old for the marriage market, too old for hope. Margaret reminded her of this fact daily. "Go to the kitchen," Margaret said. "Cook needs help with tonight's dinner party. And do try not to embarrass me in front of the guests. Keep your eyes down. Stay in the shadows. Pretend you do not exist." Beatrice walked through the cold hallways of Hartwell House. The home she had grown up in felt like a prison now. Portraits of her father hung on the walls. In them, he smiled. She remembered his laugh. She remembered how he would lift her up and spin her around. She remembered the lullaby he sang when nightmares woke her. Those memories felt like dreams now, faded and far away. In the kitchen, she found chaos. Cook was shouting at the maids. Pots boiled over on the stove. The scullery maid was crying in the corner. Beatrice rolled up her sleeves and went to work. She knew how to make order from chaos. She had been doing it her whole life. She chopped vegetables with quick, clean cuts. She stirred sauces without being asked. She calmed the crying maid with soft words. Within an hour, the kitchen hummed with smooth efficiency. "You have a gift," Cook said, wiping sweat from her forehead. "You should have been born to a different life." Beatrice smiled, though it did not reach her eyes. "We do not choose what we are born to." "No," Cook agreed. "But sometimes fate gives us a different path than the one we walk." That evening, Beatrice served at the dinner party. She wore a plain grey dress that had been mended many times. She kept her eyes down as Margaret had commanded. She poured wine and cleared plates like a ghost moving through the room. The guests did not see her. They never did. But one person noticed. Lord Ashford, Margaret's nephew, watched Beatrice with cruel interest. He was drunk. His eyes followed her movements like a cat watching a mouse. "Tell me, Aunt," he said loudly, "is that the orphan, the one who lives on your charity?" The room went quiet. Beatrice's hands tightened on the serving tray. Margaret's smile was poison sweet. "Yes," Margaret said, "that is Beatrice, my late husband's daughter. I keep her out of Christian duty, though she has no prospects and no future. A cautionary tale, really. This is what becomes of girls with no fortune and no beauty." Laughter rippled around the table. It cut deeper than the broken china had cut her thumb. Beatrice set down the tray carefully. She walked from the room with her head high. Let them laugh. She had survived worse. In her small attic bedroom, she sat by the narrow window. The moon was full and bright. Somewhere out in the world, people were happy. Somewhere, people were loved. She hummed the old lullaby her father had sung. The melody was sad and sweet. It was the only piece of him she had left. She did not know that this lullaby would change everything. Miles away, in a grand estate that could swallow Hartwell House 10 times over, the Duke of Thornfield sat alone in his study. His name was Julian Blackwood. He was 32 years old. He was one of the richest men in England, and he was empty. His wife had died 3 years ago in childbirth. The baby had died too. A son. Julian had held the tiny body in his arms for 1 hour before they took him away. He had not held anything since. He had not felt anything since. His mother, the Dowager Duchess, worried. His sisters worried. The whole estate worried. The Duke had become a ghost in his own home. He fulfilled his duties, he managed his lands, he attended Parliament, but he did not live. He existed. "You must marry again," his mother said for the 100th time. She sat across from him in the study, her hands folded in her lap. "It has been 3 years, Julian. You need an heir. The title needs security." "I know my duty," Julian said. His voice was flat, empty. "It is not just duty," his mother pressed. "You are young. You deserve happiness again. You deserve love." "I had love," Julian said. "It died. I will not risk that pain again." "Then marry for practicality," his mother said. Her voice was gentle but firm. "Choose a woman who needs what you can provide. A marriage of convenience. No expectations of love, just companionship, just duty." Julian looked at his mother, really looked at her. She had aged since his wife died. Grief had carved lines in her face, too. She had lost a daughter-in-law she loved, a grandson she never got to know, and, in a way, she had lost her son, too. The Julian who laughed and teased and lived had died with his family. "I will consider it," he said finally. His mother's face brightened with hope. "There is a ball next week. Lady Margaret Hartwell is hosting. She has connections to many families with daughters." "I said I would consider it," Julian repeated. "Do not plan my wedding yet." But his mother was already planning. He could see it in her eyes. Julian walked through his estate that night. Thornfield Manor had 60 rooms. Every one of them echoed with emptiness. He passed the nursery they had prepared. The cradle still sat in the corner, covered in dust. He had not been able to bring himself to remove it. In his bedroom, he opened the drawer where he kept his wife's letters. Caroline had written to him during their courtship. Her handwriting was elegant. Her words were kind. He had loved her. But if he was honest with himself, their love had been gentle and comfortable, not passionate, not all-consuming. He wondered if that had been enough for her. He wondered if she had wanted more. He would never know now. He lay in bed and stared at the ceiling. Sleep came slowly. When it did, he dreamed of a lullaby he could not quite remember. A woman's voice, humming soft and low. The melody was sad but beautiful. It felt like coming home. He woke with tears on his face. He had not cried since the funeral. Something inside him had cracked open. Just a little. Just enough to hurt. Lady Margaret Hartwell had a problem. She had debts that were drowning her. Her late husband had left her the house but very little money. She had lived beyond her means for years, hoping to marry her daughter to wealth. But her daughter had eloped with a soldier 2 years ago and now lived in Scotland, far from Margaret's schemes. The Duke of Thornfield was her answer. If she could arrange a match between the Duke and someone in her household, she would receive a finder's fee. More than that, she would have the favor of one of the most powerful men in England. But Margaret had no daughters left to offer, no nieces of marriageable age, no one except— The idea came to her like a snake sliding through grass. Beatrice. The girl was past her prime but not completely unmarriageable. She was quiet and obedient. She would cause no trouble. And most importantly, the Duke wanted a marriage of convenience, not love. Beatrice was perfect for that. Plain enough not to stir passion, broken enough not to demand it. Margaret smiled. She would frame it as charity. The Duke could save a poor orphan while fulfilling his duty. He would be seen as noble, generous, kind. He would owe Margaret for the opportunity. She called Beatrice to her sitting room the next morning. Beatrice entered with caution. Nothing good ever came from these summons. Margaret sat behind her desk like a queen on a throne. "I have arranged a marriage for you," Margaret announced without preamble. Beatrice's heart stopped, then started again, beating too fast. "What?" "You will marry the Duke of Thornfield. The wedding is in 1 week." The room tilted. Beatrice gripped the back of a chair to steady herself. "I do not understand. Why would a duke marry me? He does not even know me." "He seeks a wife of convenience," Margaret said. Her voice was brisk and businesslike. "He has no interest in love or passion. He wants a quiet woman who will give him an heir and stay out of his way. You are perfect for that role." "But I cannot—" "You can and you will," Margaret interrupted. Her eyes went hard. "This is the only chance you will ever have. Do you think anyone else will marry you? You are 26, poor, plain. This is a miracle. You should be grateful." Beatrice's mind raced. Marriage to a duke. It sounded like a fairy tale. But Margaret did not deal in fairy tales. There had to be a catch. "What do you gain from this?" Beatrice asked. Margaret's smile was thin. "That is not your concern. Your concern is to be obedient and grateful. Accept this marriage, or I will turn you out onto the streets. You have until tomorrow to decide." But there was no decision to make. Beatrice had no money, no skills that would earn her a living, no family who would take her in. The streets meant death, slow and cruel. She thought of the Duke. She had heard of him. Everyone had. He was known for his wealth and his coldness. They said he never smiled. They said his heart had died with his wife. A marriage to him would be loveless and empty, but it would be survival. "I accept," Beatrice said quietly. Margaret nodded as if she had never doubted. "Good. We leave for Thornfield Manor in 3 days. You will meet the Duke at the wedding. Do try to look presentable." The next 3 days passed in a blur. Beatrice was measured for a wedding dress. It was simple white muslin, nothing grand. She was given instructions on how to behave. Keep quiet. Be obedient. Do not expect affection. Give him an heir. Stay out of sight. She felt like a piece of furniture being arranged in someone else's home. On the journey to Thornfield Manor, Beatrice watched the countryside roll past the carriage window. Fields gave way to forests. Small homes gave way to grand estates. The world of the Duke was so different from anything she had known. Thornfield Manor rose before them like a mountain. It was stone and grandeur and intimidating beauty. Servants lined up to greet them. A butler who looked older than time itself bowed stiffly. "Lady Hartwell, Miss Hartwell, His Grace awaits you in the drawing room." Beatrice's legs shook as she walked through the entrance hall. Everything was marble and gold and impossible wealth. She felt like a mouse in a palace built for giants. The drawing room doors opened, and there he was. The Duke of Thornfield stood by the fireplace. He was tall, well over 6 feet. His hair was dark as midnight. His eyes were blue, but not the warm blue of summer sky, the cold blue of deep water. His face was handsome in a harsh way, all sharp angles and stern lines. He looked at her. His expression did not change. She might as well have been a piece of art he was considering for purchase. "Miss Hartwell," he said. His voice was deep, controlled, empty. "Your Grace," she whispered. She curtsied low. Her legs nearly gave out. "You understand the terms of this arrangement?" he asked. "Yes, Your Grace." "This is a marriage of convenience. I need an heir. You need security. We will be civil to each other. We will fulfill our duties. We will not expect more than that." "I understand." He studied her for a long moment. She kept her eyes down. She could feel his gaze like weight on her shoulders. "You are younger than I expected," he said finally. "I am 26, Your Grace." "You look younger." Something flickered in his eyes. She could not read it. "Can you read?" The question surprised her. "Yes, Your Grace." "Can you manage a household?" "I have done so for 10 years." "Do you have any health issues I should know about?" "No, Your Grace." He nodded as if checking items off a list. "The wedding will be tomorrow morning. Small ceremony. Family only. After that, Lady Hartwell will return to her home. You will remain here as my Duchess." "Yes, Your Grace." "You may go now. The housekeeper will show you to your rooms." Beatrice curtsied again and fled. Her heart pounded in her chest. She had just met the man she would marry. He had looked at her like a horse he was buying. No warmth, no kindness, just cold assessment. What had she agreed to? The wedding took place in the Manor's chapel the next morning. Beatrice wore the simple white dress. She had no flowers, no friends in attendance. Margaret was there, smiling like she had won a prize. The Duke's mother was there, watching Beatrice with unreadable eyes. A few other family members filled the pews. The Duke stood at the altar in a black coat. He looked like a statue carved from ice. The vicar spoke the words. Beatrice repeated them in a voice that shook. The Duke's voice was steady as stone. He slid a ring onto her finger. It was heavy gold set with diamonds. It felt like a shackle. "You may kiss the bride," the vicar said. The Duke leaned down. His lips brushed hers for barely a second. They were cold. The kiss felt like a formality, a signature on a contract. It was done. She was a duchess. The wedding breakfast was brief. Margaret left in the afternoon, satisfied with her work. The Duke's mother approached Beatrice before she departed. "Welcome to the family," she said. Her voice was kind but cautious. "I hope you will be happy here." "Thank you, Your Grace," Beatrice said. "Call me Mother if you wish, or Catherine, whatever feels comfortable." Beatrice nodded. She did not know what felt comfortable. Nothing about this felt comfortable. That evening, Beatrice sat in her new rooms. They were larger than the entire attic floor of Hartwell House. The bed could fit 5 people. The wardrobe was full of new dresses in silks and satins. She was surrounded by luxury she could not comprehend, but she had never felt more alone. A knock came at the connecting door between her rooms and the Duke's. Her heart jumped. She knew what this night meant. He needed an heir. That was the purpose of this marriage. "Enter," she called. The Duke stepped into her room. He had changed into a dark dressing gown. He looked at her sitting by the window in her white nightgown. For a moment, something crossed his face, something almost like regret. "I will not force myself on you," he said abruptly. Beatrice blinked in surprise. "Your Grace?" "I know this marriage is not what you chose. Not really. I will not demand my rights as a husband until you are ready." She did not know what to say. She had expected cold duty. This almost sounded like kindness. "Thank you," she managed. He nodded. Then he turned to leave. But at the door he paused. "What is your favorite color?" he asked. The question was so unexpected that she answered without thinking. "Green, like the forest in spring." "Why?" "It feels alive, like hope growing." He looked at her then, really looked at her. His eyes met hers for the first time. She saw something in them, a flicker of curiosity, of recognition, as if he saw her as a person, not just a duty. "Good night, Beatrice," he said softly. "Good night, Your Grace." He left. She sat frozen by the window. He had called her by her name, not Miss Hartwell, not Duchess, Beatrice. And his voice, when he said it, had been almost gentle. Maybe, she thought, this would not be completely unbearable. The next weeks fell into a pattern. Beatrice spent her days learning to run Thornfield Manor. The housekeeper, Mrs. Davies, was patient and kind. She showed Beatrice the routines, the accounts, the management of dozens of servants. Beatrice was good at it. She had been running Margaret's household for years with no thanks. Here, the servants seemed to appreciate her quiet efficiency. They smiled when they saw her. They asked her opinions. She felt useful for the first time in years. The Duke was polite but distant. They took breakfast together each morning. He asked her questions about the household. She answered. They discussed the weather, the estate business. Nothing personal, nothing deep. But small things began to happen, things she did not expect. One morning, she came down to breakfast and found a vase of wildflowers on the table. Green flowers, the colour of spring forests. Mrs. Davies said the Duke had ordered them from the greenhouse. Another day, she mentioned that she liked to read. The next morning, the Duke's private library was open to her. Thousands of books lined the walls. The Duke found her there that evening, curled in a chair with a volume of poetry. "You may come here whenever you wish," he said. "I am rarely here in the evenings." "Thank you, Your Grace." "Julian," he said suddenly. "I beg your pardon?" "Call me Julian. We are married. The formality is unnecessary when we are alone." "Then you should call me B," she said before she could stop herself. "My father called me that." Something softened in his face. "B," he repeated. The name sounded gentle in his deep voice. "It suits you." He left her to her reading, but the next night he came to the library while she was there. He said nothing. He simply sat in the chair across from her and read his own book. They spent the evening in comfortable silence. It became a routine. Every evening they read together. Sometimes they spoke about the books. Sometimes they sat in quiet companionship. Beatrice found herself looking forward to these hours. The Duke, Julian, seemed less cold in the library, less like a statue and more like a man. One night she fell asleep in her chair. She woke to find a blanket tucked around her shoulders. Julian sat across from her, watching her with an expression she could not read. "You should go to bed," he said softly. "I am sorry. I did not mean to fall asleep." "Do not apologize. You looked peaceful." She stood, clutching the blanket. "Thank you for this, for the library, for being kind." "Kind?" He seemed puzzled by the word. "You did not have to give me these things. You did not have to spend time with me. The marriage contract required none of this." He stood and walked to her. He was so tall that she had to tilt her head back to see his face. This close, she could see the lines around his eyes, the shadows of old grief, the loneliness that matched her own. "You are my wife," he said. "Not my servant, not my burden. You deserve kindness." His hand lifted as if to touch her face. Then he seemed to catch himself. He dropped his hand and stepped back. "Good night, B." "Good night, Julian." That night, Beatrice lay in her bed and felt something strange in her chest, something warm, something dangerous. She was beginning to care for her husband. The change happened slowly, like winter melting into spring. Julian found himself watching Beatrice, not with the cold assessment of their first meeting, but with genuine interest. He noticed how she spoke gently to the servants, how she resolved disputes with wisdom and fairness, how she transformed Thornfield Manor from a mausoleum into a home. She laughed one day at something the head gardener said. The sound startled Julian so much that he dropped the papers he was holding. Her laugh was bright and clear, like bells. He realized he had never heard her laugh before. He wanted to hear it again. "You are staring," his mother said one afternoon. Julian and Catherine were taking tea in the garden. Beatrice was across the lawn, consulting with the gardener about the roses. The sun caught in her hair, turning it golden brown. "I am observing," Julian corrected. "You are smitten." "Do not be ridiculous." "Julian," his mother's voice was gentle, "I have not seen you look at anyone like that since before Caroline died. It is good. She is good for you. It is a marriage of convenience, Julian said, but the words felt hollow. Is it? Catherine smiled. Then why do you have the kitchen make her favorite foods? Why did you order books you thought she would enjoy? Why do you spend every evening in the library with her when you used to avoid that room? Julian had no answer. Or rather, he had an answer he was not ready to admit. The truth was that Beatrice had become the most important part of his day. He woke thinking of their breakfast conversation. He managed his estate business with half his mind, the other half wondering what she was doing. He counted the hours until evening when they would sit together in the library. She made him feel alive again, like he was waking from a 3-year sleep. But she deserved better than a half-broken man with a dead wife's ghost still haunting him. She deserved someone whole and free, not someone who still woke from nightmares of losing the people he loved. One evening, a storm rolled in. Thunder shook the windows, lightning split the sky. Julian was working late in his study when he heard a crash from the library. He ran. Beatrice stood in the middle of the room, shaking. A book lay on the floor where she had dropped it. Her face was pale as snow. "Bea, what is wrong?" "The storm," she whispered. "I am sorry, I know it is foolish. I am fine." Thunder crashed again. She flinched so hard she nearly fell. Julian caught her arms to steady her. "You are terrified," he said. "My father died in a storm," she said. The words tumbled out like water breaking through a dam. He went out to secure the horses. Lightning struck a tree. The tree fell on him. I watched from the window. I was 16. I watched him die and I could do nothing. Her whole body shook. Julian did not think. He pulled her into his arms. She was small against his chest, fragile. He could feel her heart racing. "I have you," he said. "You are safe." She did not pull away. Instead, she pressed closer. Her hands clutched his coat. He held her while the storm raged outside. He had not held anyone like this since Caroline died. But this felt different, more intense, more necessary. "Tell me about him," Julian said softly. "Tell me about your father." So she did. The words poured out of her. She told him about her father's kindness, his laugh, how he would dance with her in the garden, how he sang to her when she was afraid. She told him about the lullaby, the one that had been her comfort all these years. "Will you hum it for me?" Julian asked. She pulled back enough to look at him. "Why?" "Because it matters to you, and that means it matters to me." She hummed the melody, soft and low and heartbreaking in its beauty. Julian felt something crack inside his chest. The lullaby was familiar somehow, like a memory from a dream. "That is beautiful," he whispered. He said his mother sang it to him, and her mother before her, a song passed down through generations. "My mother used to sing something similar," Julian said slowly. The memory was coming back, fuzzy but real. "When I was very small, before my father died, I had forgotten." They looked at each other. Something passed between them, a recognition, a connection. They were both orphans in a way, both carrying ghosts, both terribly lonely. "I do not want you to be frightened," Julian said. His hands came up to cup her face. "Not of storms, not of anything." "I am frightened of many things," she admitted. "Tell me." "I am frightened that this will end, that you will wake one day and regret marrying me, that I will go back to being invisible and worthless." "Look at me." He waited until her grey eyes met his. "You are not invisible. Not to me. I see you, Bea. I see your kindness and your strength. I see how you have brought light back into this dark house. I see you, and I am grateful for you every single day." "Julian." His name was a prayer on her lips. He kissed her. Not the cold brush of their wedding day. This was real and warm and full of feeling. Her hands slid up to his neck. His arms pulled her closer. The kiss deepened. The storm outside faded. There was only this moment, this connection, this rightness. When they finally pulled apart, both were breathing hard. Julian rested his forehead against hers. "I did not expect this," he said. "Neither did I. I thought I was done with feeling anything, but you have woken something in me. Something I thought died 3 years ago." "I am afraid," she whispered. "So am I." He kissed her forehead. "But perhaps we can be afraid together." That night, Julian walked Beatrice to her door. He kissed her again, gentle and sweet. "May I come to you?" he asked. "Not for duty, not for an heir, just to be with you." "Yes," she breathed. He carried her to the bed. What passed between them was tender and slow. He worshipped her with touches and whispers. He showed her she was beautiful, though she had never believed it. She showed him he was not broken beyond repair. Afterward, they lay tangled together. Beatrice's head rested on Julian's chest. His fingers traced patterns on her shoulder. "Sing for me," he asked. "The lullaby." She hummed the melody. His arms tightened around her, and for the first time in 3 years, Julian felt at peace. The next weeks were golden. They were still careful with each other, still learning, but the walls were coming down brick by brick. Julian taught Beatrice to ride. She was nervous on the horse at first, but he led her gently around the paddock, his hand never leaving the reins. By the end of the week, she was galloping through the fields, laughing with pure joy. Julian chased after her, his own laughter ringing out. The servants stopped their work to stare. The Duke was laughing. It was a miracle. Beatrice opened up parts of Thornfield that had been closed since Caroline's death. The music room, the ballroom, the nursery. She did it carefully, watching Julian's face for signs of pain, but he seemed relieved, not hurt. "She would not want these rooms to sit empty," he said one day. They stood in the nursery, looking at the dusty cradle. Caroline loved life. She would hate that her death stopped all the life in this house. "Tell me about her," Beatrice said. Julian hesitated, then he began to speak. He told her about Caroline, about their courtship, their marriage, her death, the son they lost. He cried while he spoke. Beatrice held him and let him grieve. "I will never forget her," Julian said. "I cannot." "I would never ask you to," Beatrice said. "She was your wife, the mother of your child. She deserves to be remembered." "You are not jealous?" "Of course I am," Beatrice admitted. "She had your love in a way I may never have. But she is gone, and I am here, and I will love you enough for both of us if I must." Julian pulled her close. "You have my love, Bea, all of it. Not the same love I had for Caroline. Something different, something fiercer, something that terrifies me because I cannot imagine losing it. You will not lose me. Promise me." "I promise." He kissed her then, deep and desperate. That night they made love with new intensity, as if they were trying to merge into one person, as if they could somehow protect each other from the world's cruelty by sheer force of feeling. The household bloomed under their happiness. Servants smiled more. The gardens grew lush and beautiful. Music filled the halls. Thornfield Manor transformed from a tomb into a true home. Julian's mother visited and could not believe the change in her son. "You are yourself again," she said, tears in her eyes. "No, you are better than you were. Happier." "Bea saved me," Julian said simply. "You saved each other," Catherine corrected. One evening, Julian took Beatrice to the portrait gallery. Paintings of Blackwood ancestors lined the walls. Stern-faced dukes and elegant duchesses stared down at them. "I want to commission a portrait of you," Julian said, "to hang here among my family, because you are my family now, the most important person in my life." Beatrice looked at the grand portraits. "I do not belong among these people. I have no noble blood, no grand history." "You belong because you are mine," Julian said fiercely. "You are the Duchess of Thornfield, my wife, the woman I love. That is all the history you need." "You love me?" The words came out as a whisper. Julian turned her to face him. His blue eyes burned with intensity. "I love you. I love your kindness and your strength. I love how you hum when you think no one is listening. I love how you make everything better just by being in the room. I love you so much it frightens me." Tears streamed down Beatrice's face. "I love you too. I have loved you since the first time you asked my favorite color, since the first time you treated me like I mattered. You matter more than anything." He kissed her there in the portrait gallery, surrounded by generations of Blackwoods, as if declaring to all his ancestors that this woman, this wonderful woman, was his choice, his love, his life. That night, Beatrice fell asleep in Julian's arms, happier than she had ever been. She thought nothing could touch this joy. She thought they were safe. She was wrong. Lady Margaret Hartwell read the letter with growing rage. It was from her solicitor. The Duke of Thornfield had paid off Margaret's debts, all of them. But he had done more than that. He had called in favors with other nobles. Margaret was being shut out of society. Invitations dried up. Former friends cut her in public. The Duke was punishing her. And Margaret knew why. He had learned how she treated Beatrice, how she used and humiliated the girl for years. He was exacting revenge for his wife. Margaret crumpled the letter in her fist. That ungrateful girl, that worthless nobody. She had married the Duke and then turned him against the family who raised her. Margaret would not stand for it. She called for her carriage. She would go to Thornfield Manor. She would remind Beatrice of her place. She would take back some control. The journey took 2 days. When Margaret arrived, she was shown into the drawing room. Beatrice entered moments later. Margaret barely recognized her. The girl wore a gown of emerald silk. Her hair was styled elegantly. She carried herself with quiet confidence. She looked like a duchess. "Lady Hartwell," Beatrice said coolly, "I did not expect you." "Clearly," Margaret said. Her voice dripped venom. "You have settled in nicely. Tell me, do you enjoy playing at nobility? Do you enjoy pretending you are something you are not?" "I am the Duchess of Thornfield. That is not pretending." "You are an orphan playing dress-up," Margaret hissed. "A charity case who got lucky. But you cannot erase what you are. Common, plain, nothing." Beatrice's face went pale, but she did not flinch. "You should leave." "Not until I say what I came to say." Margaret stepped closer. "You have turned my nephew against me. You have ruined my reputation. You have taken everything from me." "You took everything from me first," Beatrice said quietly. "For 10 years you made me feel worthless. You humiliated me. You treated me like a servant in my own father's house. You sold me to the Duke like a horse at auction. You have no right to complain about consequences. You ungrateful little—" "That is enough." Julian's voice cut through the room like a blade. He stood in the doorway, his face carved from ice. "You will not speak to my wife that way in my home." Margaret turned. She tried to compose herself. "Your Grace, I was just—" "Leaving," Julian finished. "Immediately. And you will not return. You are not welcome here. Not now. Not ever." "You cannot do this. I am family." "You are nothing to me," Julian said. His voice was soft but deadly. "You abused a girl under your care. You sold her into marriage for profit. You have no honor and no decency. Leave now or I will have you removed." Margaret looked between them. Julian stood beside Beatrice now, his hand on her shoulder, united, protective. She had lost. "This is not over," Margaret spat. "Yes," Julian said, "it is." Margaret left in a fury. Her carriage had barely cleared the drive before she was plotting. If she could not attack them directly, she would attack their reputation. She would spread rumors. She would remind society that Beatrice was nobody, that this marriage was a farce, that the Duke had lowered himself by marrying so far beneath his station. The rumours started within days. London society loved gossip. They whispered in ballrooms and drawing rooms. The Duke of Thornfield had married a penniless orphan, a woman with no family and no breeding. What did that say about him? Had grief made him foolish? Had he lost his mind? The whispers reached Thornfield. Julian heard them. He dismissed them with cold contempt, but Beatrice heard them too, and they cut deep. "Perhaps we should go to London," Julian said one morning. "Face society together. Show them we do not care what they think." "They will tear me apart," Beatrice said. Her voice was small, frightened. "I will not let them." "You cannot stop their thoughts, their judgments. They will look at me and see exactly what Margaret said. Common, plain, unworthy of you." "Bea!" "It is true," she interrupted. "I am not like them. I do not know how to move in their world. I will embarrass you." "You could never embarrass me." "You say that now, but when you see me beside other women, women who are beautiful and accomplished and born to this life, you will regret choosing me." Julian grabbed her shoulders. "Look at me. I chose you, not for convenience, not for duty. I chose you because you are the only person who makes me feel whole, the only person I want beside me. I do not care what society thinks." "But I care," Beatrice whispered. "I care that they will hurt you to hurt me. I care that your name will be tainted by association with me. I care that you will wake one day and wish you had married someone suitable. That will never happen. You cannot know that." Something was breaking between them. Beatrice could feel it. The old insecurities were rising up like floodwaters. All of Margaret's years of cruelty were coming back. All the time she had been told she was worthless, unlovable, a burden. Julian loved her now. But would he still love her when society reminded him daily of what she lacked? That night, Beatrice could not sleep. She stood by the window, looking out at the moonlit gardens. Julian came up behind her, wrapping his arms around her waist. "Come to bed," he murmured. "I cannot stop thinking." "About what?" "About all the ways I do not fit into your life." Julian turned her to face him. "You are my life. Now. But what about when you tire of defending me? What about when the gossip becomes too much? What about when you realize you could have had someone better?" "There is no one better." "Julian." "No." His voice was firm. "I will not let you do this. I will not let Margaret's poison ruin what we have. She wants you to doubt yourself, to doubt us. Do not give her that power." "It is not just her. It is everyone. All of society." "Then we will leave society," Julian said. "We will stay here at Thornfield, just us. We do not need anyone else." "But you have duties, responsibilities. You cannot hide away forever." "I would give up everything for you," Julian said desperately. "The title, the estates, all of it. You are all I need." "That is not fair to you," Beatrice said. Tears streamed down her face. "You were born to this life. You have obligations. I will not let you sacrifice everything because you married the wrong woman." "You are not the wrong woman. You are the only woman." But doubt had taken root. It grew like weeds, choking the happiness they had built. Beatrice began to withdraw. She stopped coming to the library in the evenings. She ate meals in her room. She avoided Julian's touch. She was trying to protect him from her inadequacy. She was trying to push him away before he left her first. Julian did not understand. He tried to reach her, but she had built walls around her heart again. The walls he had worked so hard to break down. He felt helpless, frustrated, terrified. "I am losing her," he told his mother. Catherine had come to Thornfield when she heard about the rumors. "I do not know how to stop it." "She is frightened," Catherine said. "She has been told her whole life that she is not enough. Those wounds do not heal easily. I have told her every day that she is everything to me. Words are not enough when the world is shouting the opposite. You must show her. You must prove to society and to her that she is your choice, your only choice, loudly, publicly, without shame or apology. How? Catherine smiled. I have an idea. But before Julian could act, disaster struck. A letter arrived from London. The Prince Regent himself was hosting a ball, and he had specifically requested the presence of the Duke and Duchess of Thornfield. It was a command, not an invitation. They had to go. Beatrice read the letter with growing dread. I cannot. We must, Julian said. To refuse would be an insult to the crown. They will destroy me. I will be beside you every moment. That will not be enough. Please, we face this together or not at all. She wanted to refuse. She wanted to hide in Thornfield forever. But she could see the strain on Julian's face, the position she was putting him in. If she refused, it would reflect badly on him. Society would say she was unfit, that he had made a mistake. She could not do that to him. I will go, she said quietly. We will show them, Julian promised. We will show them all that you are the finest Duchess in England. But Beatrice did not believe him. She was walking into a nightmare, and there would be no escape. The ballroom glittered with candlelight and jewels. Every important person in London society filled the space. Music played, champagne flowed, and everyone waited for the Duke and Duchess of Thornfield to arrive. The whispers had reached a fever pitch. They said the Duke's new wife was a social climber, a fortune hunter, a nobody. They could not wait to see her, to judge her, to tear her apart with smiles and polite venom. Beatrice stood in the entrance hall of the palace, frozen with terror. She wore a gown of midnight blue silk that Julian had commissioned. Diamonds sparkled at her throat and ears. She looked like a duchess, but she felt like an imposter. I cannot do this, she whispered. Julian took her hand. He looked magnificent in black evening clothes. His blue eyes held hers. Yes, you can. You are the strongest person I know. You survived 10 years of cruelty. You turned Thornfield from a tomb into a home. You brought me back to life. You can survive one ball. They hate me already. Then let us give them something to really hate. Let us show them a love so strong it makes them weep with envy. He raised her hand to his lips and kissed her knuckles. The gesture was tender and public. A declaration. I love you, he said. Now, always, forever. Nothing they say will change that. The doors opened. The majordomo's voice rang out. His Grace, the Duke of Thornfield, and Her Grace, the Duchess of Thornfield. They walked into the ballroom. Every eye turned to them. The music faltered. Conversation died. The scrutiny was like physical weight. Beatrice's legs trembled. She wanted to run, but Julian's hand tightened on hers. He stood tall and proud. He looked at the crowd with cold disdain, as if daring them to say something, as if daring them to insult his wife. They walked through the crowd. People parted before them. Beatrice kept her chin up. She forced herself to meet the stares. She saw the judgment, the disapproval, the curiosity. But she also saw something else. She saw Julian's mother across the room, smiling with approval. She saw kind faces among the cruel ones. She saw that not everyone had already condemned her. The Prince Regent approached. He was an imposing man, wealthy, powerful, difficult to impress. He looked Beatrice up and down. So this is the Duchess, he said. I have heard much about you. Your Royal Highness. Beatrice curtsied perfectly. Her lessons had paid off. They say you have no family, no fortune, that you married the Duke for his money. The room went silent. This was the attack, the public humiliation. Beatrice felt Julian tense beside her. But before he could speak, she lifted her head. "They are right," she said clearly. "I have no family but the one I married into. I have no fortune but what my husband provides. And yes, I married the Duke when I had nothing. But not for his money. I married him because he was the first person in 10 years to treat me like I was worth something. And I have spent every day since trying to be worthy of that gift." The Prince Regent studied her. Then he smiled. "Honest. I like that. Too many people in this room lie through their teeth." He turned to Julian. "You chose well, Thornfield. She has fire." "Yes," Julian said. His voice was fierce with pride. "She does." The Prince Regent moved on. The moment had passed. Beatrice had not been destroyed. But the night was far from over. The whispers continued. Women looked at her with cold eyes. Men smirked behind their hands. Every second was torture. Then the music changed. A waltz began. Julian turned to Beatrice. "Dance with me," he said. "Everyone is watching." "Good. Let them watch." He led her onto the floor. Other couples joined them. But Julian did not notice. He looked only at Beatrice. His hand was firm on her waist. His eyes never left hers. "Do you remember the first night we met?" he asked as they turned across the floor. "You looked at me like I was a horse you were buying." He winced. "I was a fool. You were grieving. That is no excuse for how I treated you. But you changed everything, Bea. You made me want to live again. You made Thornfield a home. You made me whole. I was a shell of a man before you. Now I am alive, and it is all because of you." "Julian, I am not finished." His voice grew louder. Couples around them began to listen. "I want everyone to hear this. I want all of London to know. I love you, Beatrice Blackwood. You are the finest woman I have ever known. I do not care about your birth or your fortune. I care about your heart. And your heart is more valuable than all the noble blood in this room." The music was still playing, but everyone had stopped dancing. They were watching Julian and Beatrice, watching the Duke make a public declaration of love. It was scandalous, romantic, unprecedented. "You say I am common," Beatrice said. Tears streamed down her face. "And I am. But I love you with everything I am. Every common, plain, ordinary piece of me loves you, and I will spend my life trying to be worthy of your love." "You do not have to try," Julian said. "You already are worthy. You always were. The world just did not see it. But I see you. I see all of you. And you are beautiful." He kissed her. There in the middle of the ballroom, in front of the Prince Regent and all of London society. He kissed her like she was the only person in the world. The crowd gasped. Then someone began to clap. Then another. Then the entire ballroom erupted in applause. Julian pulled back from the kiss. He looked around at the crowd with cold satisfaction. "Let anyone who has something to say about my wife say it to my face. I dare you." No one spoke. No one moved. The Duke of Thornfield had made his choice clear. To insult his wife would be to insult him, and no one wanted to make an enemy of one of the most powerful men in England. Lady Margaret Hartwell stood in the corner, watching her plans crumble. She had hoped to embarrass Beatrice, to drive a wedge between her and the Duke. Instead, she had only made their bond stronger. She had lost, completely and utterly. The rest of the evening passed in a blur. People approached them differently now, with respect, with curiosity instead of cruelty. Some even apologized for believing the rumors. Julian never left Beatrice's side. He introduced her proudly. He spoke of her intelligence and kindness. He made it clear that she was not just his wife in name. She was his partner, his equal, his love. By the end of the night, Beatrice was exhausted but triumphant. They rode back to their London townhouse in comfortable silence. Julian held her hand the entire way. "You were magnificent," he said. "I was terrified." "You did not show it. You stood tall, you spoke honestly, you won them over." We won them over, she corrected. You told an entire ballroom that you loved me. That was incredibly romantic and incredibly foolish. I meant every word. I know you did. That is what made it perfect. That night, they made love with desperate intensity, as if reaffirming their bond, as if reminding each other that they had survived the worst, that they were stronger together than apart, that love had conquered cruelty and doubt. Afterward, Beatrice lay in Julian's arms. She hummed the old lullaby, the one her father had sung, the one that had comforted her in dark times, the one that had somehow brought her to this moment. Sing the words, Julian murmured. I know there are words. I do not know all of them, Beatrice admitted. My father only sang bits and pieces, something about stars and home and never being alone. My mother knew the full song, Julian said slowly. Before my father died, she sang it every night. I can still remember some of it. He began to sing softly. His voice was rough but sweet. When the stars come out to shine and the world is dark and cold, remember you are mine, and love will make you bold. Beatrice sat up. That is it. That is the song. How do you know it? It is old, passed down through families. My mother said it was a song about enduring love, about never giving up hope, even when the world is cruel. That is what it was for me, Beatrice whispered. Hope. When everything was dark, I had that song, and now I have you. We have each other, Julian corrected. He pulled her back down into his arms. And we always will. 3 months later, Beatrice stood in the nursery at Thornfield Manor. The room had been cleaned and painted. New curtains hung in the windows. Sunlight streamed across the cradle that was no longer dusty. Her hand rested on her still flat stomach. The doctor had confirmed it that morning. She was with child. The Blackwood line would continue. But more than that, she and Julian would have a family, a child born from their love. Julian found her there. He looked at her face and knew immediately. B? We are going to have a baby. His face transformed, joy and wonder, and a little bit of fear. Truly? Truly. He crossed the room in 2 strides. He lifted her off her feet and spun her around. His laugh was pure happiness. When he set her down, there were tears in his eyes. I am going to be a father. Yes, and you are going to be a mother. The very best mother. I am terrified. So am I, Julian admitted. But we will face it together, just like we have faced everything else. He knelt before her. His hands rested gently on her stomach. Hello, little one, he whispered. I am your father, and I love you already. More than I knew was possible. You and your mother have given me everything. You have given me life. Beatrice ran her fingers through Julian's dark hair. This man who had been a cold stranger. This man who had become her whole world. This man who loved her with a fierceness that still took her breath away. Sing to them, she said. Sing the lullaby. So Julian sang, the old song of enduring love, the song that had connected them before they even met, the song that would be passed to their child and their child's children, a legacy of love conquering darkness. Beatrice joined in. Their voices blended together, 2 broken people who had found each other, who had healed each other, who had built a love strong enough to weather any storm. In the years that followed, Thornfield Manor was filled with laughter and life. They had 4 children, 3 daughters and a son. Each child learned the lullaby. Each child grew up surrounded by love and warmth. The ghosts that had haunted the halls were replaced by joy. Julian never forgot Caroline, but he learned that the heart could hold multiple loves without diminishing any of them. He had loved his first wife. He loved his children. But Beatrice was the love that had saved him, that had brought him back from the darkness, that had taught him what it meant to be truly alive. Beatrice never forgot the years of cruelty, but she learned that the past did not define her. She had been broken, yes, but she had also survived. She had endured. And in the end, she had found a love greater than she ever imagined possible. Lady Margaret Hartwell faded into obscurity. Her cruelty was repaid with indifference. The Thornfields never spoke of her. She was a ghost from a painful past, given no power in their present. On warm summer evenings, the people passing Thornfield Manor could hear music drifting from the windows. Laughter, children playing, and sometimes, if they listened carefully, they could hear two voices singing an old lullaby, a song about stars and hope and never being alone. The Duke had married a stranger, but he had found his soulmate, and they lived truly and deeply, happily ever after.